Picture an established company. It's got a strong core business, and now it's trying to build its next big thing, a new product, a new market, something outside what it does today. The team does everything right on paper. They study the market, they talk to customers, they build a solid case. And the project still stalls, not because customers didn't want it, because the company itself couldn't support it. That's company fit. And inside a mature organization, it's the single biggest risk to new business innovation. Let me walk you through what it is, why it's so hard to see, and what you can actually do about it. Every corporate venture eventually has to fit inside the business that's funding it. And that business runs on three things: its resources, its processes, and its priorities. We call them RPPs. Resources are the assets, the people, the budget a venture can draw on. Processes are how work actually gets approved and done, and priorities are what the organization really rewards and protects. Now, of those three, resources get almost all the attention. That's what most decisions are actually about: headcount, budget, some capability you buy or build. But the harder problems are the other two. A way of working your processes were never built for. Attention that has to compete with what leadership already rewards. That's where company fit usually breaks. And almost none of it is written down. It lives in the culture, in tribal knowledge, how things really work around here. No policy document captures that. And here's what makes poor company fit so dangerous. The friction is subtle. It shows up as small delays or little compromises to the strategy. A legal review here, a channel conflict there, every one of them frustrating, every one of them perfectly reasonable, and no single one looks fatal. But your competitor is focused, with their RPPs 100% aligned, and the cumulative impact of all that friction is what makes you uncompetitive. Late, over budget, often both. And then the project dies. That's why, in established companies, poor company fit is the biggest reason good innovation projects fail. Let's make that concrete. New Brew is a hypothetical company, a growing beverage business that cans and ships microbrewed beers and ales. And it's looking at a handful of new bets. One of them is powdered beer. A lightweight, packable drink you can take outdoors, good idea, real market. And New Brew could probably build it. The underlying capability is there, but it gets produced and sold in ways that look nothing like what the company does today. On paper, it looks promising. Underneath, it's a company fit problem. This is where GrowthForge software helps. The company fit tool is simple to use. It starts with a short but carefully formulated survey. Because most people, even leaders, can't just tell you their organization's RPPs. The processes and priorities that actually matter vary by function and by level, and priorities in particular are rarely written down. When they are, they're usually aspirational, so the survey doesn't ask directly. It asks about concrete things people can actually observe and works backward from there. Once it's answered, GrowthForge turns that into a clear picture. First, it grades the project on two axes. How able is the company to pull this off? And how willing is it, measured against the strategy hypothesis you're holding right now? Where you land on that grid tells you whether to pursue this and how. There are 4 places you can land: strong on both, and you build it right in the core business. Able, but not willing. The company could do this. It just won't naturally prioritize it. And that's your ideal space for internal incubation, where the venture gets protected from the core's own priorities. Land in the middle and you can proceed, but only with caution. It'll likely need custom governance to survive. And if ability is low, that's a stop, no matter how much support the project has. Free those resources up for something better, or change the hypothesis and test it again. Powdered beer lands here, over the line on ability, not comfortably, but over it. The company can do this, and low on willingness, which means the support isn't there yet. Able, but not yet backed. Then the bar charts show you where the friction actually lives. For New Brew, the pattern is clear. The implicit fit is strong. The company's real resources, its real priorities, they line up. It's the explicit commitment that's missing. Nobody has signed over the budget or the headcount, and across the functions, sales is where it bites hardest. A product they don't normally sell through a channel that cuts into their own commissions. That's what you design the protection around. And you learn all of this while the strategy is still taking shape, not after you've sunk serious money into it. And that's the value of seeing it early. You're not deciding whether to keep going anymore. You're deciding how, with the friction mapped and the trade offs in front of you. And if the gap is worth closing, you know exactly where to put the money. You're making the call deliberately with your eyes open instead of finding out the hard way a year from now. That's the difference between a project that eventually stalls out and one that's genuinely set up to win. So if you're building something new inside an established company, take a look at the company fit risks in your own strategy. There's a link below to request a Growth Forge demo or start a free trial. Stronger strategies, smarter investment decisions. That's what Growth Forge was built for.